Ahoy guys and welcome back to I Like Watches. If you've never heard of the Seiko SNKL23, then I strongly suggest you stick around, because in this video I'm going to show you not one, not two, but three. In my opinion, it is one of Seiko's absolute best value for money nuggets, and I'm not the only one. There's lots of videos on YouTube featuring the SNKL23 in its three variations, because it's an incredible watch. If you swap out the cheap stainless steel bracelet and clasp for a lovely quality leather strap, it looks like $1 million. It really, really does. And in fact, I'm a little bit obsessed with those super cheap Seiko 5s that contain the 7S26. So much so, I'm wearing the SNXS73K1. I've also bought an SNKL45 K1, I believe it is, and I'm constantly rummaging around on Joma Shop and Ashford.com for the next little nugget. But the absolute king is undoubtedly the SNKL23, and well, I noticed recently there are three variations of it on Joma Shop. You've got the SNKL23, the SNKL23 K1, and the SNKL23 J1. And if there's something I really don't like, it's, well, Seiko muddying the waters with these three variations. So I only had one option, and that was to buy all three watches, unbox them for you, and do a little comparison for you in this video. I think we're sort of familiar with the differences between the K1 and the J1 watches. J1 watches are generally made for the Japanese domestic market. K1 watches are made for the rest of the world. But what if there's no K1 or J1, and those watches are considerably cheaper than the K1 and J1 versions? So are they worse? What's going on? I think we should find out. While I've got it on my wrist, let me just quickly show you this SNXS73, roughly $100 for this watch on Joma Shop. There are some cheeky dealers on Chrono24 trying to charge you upwards of £125 to £130 for one of these. Yeah, they're good. I'm not sure they're that good. But yeah, this is just another fantastic example. I will be filming a comparison video between a few of these super affordable Seiko 5s. They'll all be containing the 7S26, and they will be what I consider to be, well, the best of the bunch. But let's get back now to the SNKL23s. Here's all three watches then, still in their original boxes, and as you can see, there are stickers on the ends showing the model numbers and I think the recommended retail prices. $185 for the SNKL23 on the left, and then $265 for the other two in the middle and on the right. Why is the watch on the left so much cheaper? That's what I'm planning to find out. Now, the actual prices you'll pay on places like Joma Shop are far more reasonable. The watch on the left, the cheapest one, is roughly $85, and the other two roughly $99. So not a huge difference in price, but still a difference. So there must be a reason, right? Okay, so I've already been thrown a bit of a curveball. The cheapest watch and the SNKL23 K1 have both come with tags on them donating, well, K1 at the end, look. So yeah, that's interesting. Well, there they all are. I think I'm going to start by putting them on the time graphers and checking out the accuracy of the movements. If you're wondering what I'm going to be doing with all these three watches once I've done this video, I'll most likely be selling one, maybe two, you never know, maybe all three on my eBay store. Link in the video description, so yeah, go and check it out. Here's the first watch then. It's running at a fairly consistent -13, -14 seconds a day. Good amplitude, perfect beat error. Yeah, that's pretty good. Watch number two is running more accurately, but that beat error is a little bit of a concern. That's a sign that the movement isn't quite as healthy. The amplitude's roughly the same. But yeah, I think I'd prefer the other movement, to be honest. The movement in the J1 watch is certainly not the best movement. The accuracy is a little bit up and down. There is some beat error there. Look, 0.4 milliseconds. The amplitude again is roughly the same. So it's looking like the movement inside the cheapest watch is, well, potentially the healthiest. Not the most accurate, but probably the healthiest. I'm now going to spend a few minutes playing Spot the Difference. Yeah, I'm not going to show you all of the footage because it's going to take quite some time, but I'm just going to come back and show you any differences I find And the first one is on the clasp. The J1 watch, look, has Japan stamped on the clasp. Now, interestingly, the cheaper watch has some damage on the clasp. It's fairly minor, but there is a little bit of a scuff, a bit of a graze on the outer shell. We have seen that they are both essentially K1 watches. So yeah, maybe this watch has been discounted for a little bit of damage. I've just noticed that the print on the dial above the index at the 6 o'clock on the J1 watch, that's this one on the right, is, well, slightly brighter, slightly more crisp, a little bit more bold look, and on the K1 watches it just doesn't look quite as nicely printed. You've also got made in Japan on the J1 dial at the bottom there, look, but yes, the other two dials are pretty much the same when it comes to the print either side of that 6 o'clock index. The K1 watch has English, French days. The J1 watch has what looks like English and Arabic. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know what that second language is in the comments section. The quality of the clasps all seem, well, pretty comparable. I'm not seeing any differences there. And it's the same story when it comes to the finishing on the bracelets and the end links. That all seems to be pretty comparable. Case finishing seems pretty much the same. I'm not seeing any difference there. The crowns look to be the same. They certainly feel the same when you're interacting with all three watches. The case backs, the crystals in the case backs and the rotors and the actual movement themselves all seem to be pretty much identical. Well, I'm not seeing any other physical differences between these watches other than the ones that I've already pointed out, of course. So now I'm just going to do a quick lume test. For this simple lume test, I've just put the watches in my light box, let them charge up for a few minutes, switched the light off and started recording with my iPhone. The iPhone isn't fantastic at recording lume in low light conditions, so it does appear to degrade really quickly, but it is actually better when you're looking at the lume with your naked eyes as opposed to through the phone. Now, these watches are roughly $100 each. We're not expecting class leading lume. What we're looking for here is to see if there's any difference between these three watches, and well, I don't think there is. They all seem to be degrading at pretty much the same pace, so yeah, we'll call this one honours even, I think. Right, so have I solved this conundrum? Can I tell you conclusively why this watch is cheaper than the other two? What is the difference between all these three watches? The answer is no, but I've got a couple of theories which I'm going to share with you now. But before I do, I just want to point out these watches are currently on Joma Shop for $115 actually. I think I said at the start of the video they're $100. They're actually $115, and I'm talking about the K1 watch and the J1 watch. This one is currently out of stock, so the cheapest watch is not currently available, but they come in and out of stock all the time on Joma Shop. You just have to keep half an eye on what's available. Right, so my two theories are, well, firstly, I put it out there to patrons. You know, why is this watch cheaper? And a couple of people actually came back and said they think these watches are made in China when there's no K1 or J1 after the model number. They're made in China. But as we saw, the tag on this one has a K1 on it, which suggests to me it has been made in the same factory as this watch, which also has a K1 after the model number on the hang tag. So that is one theory, one that I'm not completely sold on. I think the more likely answer is going to be relating to that little bit of damage on the outer shell of the clasp on this watch. As you can see, I've put this one now on a very nice leather strap, and it really does make all the difference, I've got to say. These bracelets and clasps, they're not terrible, but yeah, these watches just seem to come to life when you put them on some much nicer leather straps. But anyway, back to the outer shell. A little bit of damage, a tiny scuff. Have Joma Shop essentially discounted this watch because of that damage, removed the K1 or the J1 after the model number, and just sold it more cheaply? I suspect that is the case. So with that being said, my advice to you would be, if you're interested in buying any of these watches, to buy the J1 watch, because in this instance you can pick up the J1 watch for the same price as the K1, and I suspect the J1 watches, being Japanese domestic market watches, are made with a little bit of extra TLC, just that little sprinkling of fairy dust. That means, you know, maybe they're slightly better put together. I'm not seeing any evidence of that, mind you. Yes, the print on the dial looks a little bit nicer, but the movement isn't any more accurate, and the finishing seems to be roughly the same. But the other thing to consider is, of course, if ever you sell your Seiko watches, you'll know that watches with J1 at the end tend to hold their value just a little bit more. So in this instance, with them being exactly the same price, well, if I had the choice to buy one of all these three, again, I would get the J1 watch. Just for peace of mind and the fact that it's got the J1 at the end of it. That's the one I would go for. So unfortunately, I don't have that definitive answer, but looking at all these watches, not massive differences between them all. I'm sure you'd be happy with either one. They are incredible watches, mind, and I am looking forward to doing that comparison between this and some of the other more affordable watches containing the 7S26. So make sure you come back for that, guys. Right, I hope you enjoyed that. As always, massive thank you from me to you for tuning in. I do appreciate it, guys. Take care. Look after yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your week. You'll see me again very, very soon.